everyone? Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Welcome to Newsflash. Thank you so much for joining us here today. On the show, the White House is considering using storm aid funds from Puerto Rico as a way to pay for the border wall. That's no joke. Also today, farm country standing by Donald Trump is getting pushed to the breaking point by this shutdown. Quotes from the president at the border. The story of sexual harassment in Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. Very interesting stuff there. White nationalist Steve King will be challenged in his next primary. And the founder of Daily Kos just literally sent thousands upon thousands of roses to Nancy Pelosi. Like, literally dropped, 10 racks on roses for his girl Nancy. That is very funny. We are live on this Thursday night. So, yeah, live show. That's always fun. But, yeah, we are starting off in McAllen, Texas, where President Trump traveled to the border on Thursday to warn of crime and chaos on the frontier, as the White House officials consider diverting emergency storm aid funds from storm and fire-ravaged Puerto Rico, Florida, Texas, and California, build a border barrier under an emergency declaration. So, you kind of get the sense that he's not entirely willing to push it, to really go that far and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to actually push something on the border. We're actually going to have to put up a fight on this. But the thing is, my real worry is him possibly getting more and more apt to do it, more wanting to do it by the day. In a sign of growing unease right now about the partial government shutdown, some Senate Republicans came off the sidelines to hash out a deal that will reopen the government as Congress worked toward a broader agreement tying wall funds to protection for some undocumented immigrants and other migrants. But before those negotiations that could gain momentum, they collapsed. Vice President Mike Pence and other members of Trump's team let it be known privately the president would not back such a deal. So pretty much they wouldn't even back giving protection for undocumented immigrants and other migrants for wall funds. That is, again, it shows you where they are. They are not, that is a group that is not willing to compromise. The Democrats, they've already put up several different solutions. We could be good and gone right now with all this craziness that is literally eating everything up right now. If the Democrats had just, or the Republicans and Donald Trump specifically had agreed to $2.5 billion for the border, we would be out of this by now. And I think the Americans are becoming clear that Trump is totally to blame for the longest shutdown. I think it's going to be tomorrow. It's tied for the longest shutdown in history in the country. So yeah. So from the president, from Mike Pence, he's saying no tying wall funds in exchange for protection for some undocumented immigrants and migrants. So Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, and really weather vane towards whatever serves his political ideology best, said it kind of fell apart. I've never been more depressed about moving forward than I am right now. I just don't see a pathway. And, I don't think many people watching the situation, I've said this literally from day one, I don't see a pathway forward that's going to lead to getting out of this. In a brief statement, not long after, Graham declared, it's time for President Trump to use emergency powers to fund the construction of the border wall / barrier. I hope it works. Wow. So, yeah, Graham going right now to the right of Donald Trump on this. He said, I don't want to do it, but I think we may have to. Graham is now declaring it's time for President Trump to use emergency powers to fund this construction of the border wall. This is getting to be very, very dangerous. And if this does happen, it would be very disturbing. And all the places he's going to plan to rob from, it's going to be storm-ravaged areas. That is lower. That is lower than low. Can you believe the kind of the place you would have to come to just rob from those areas? It's absolutely crazy. The administration appeared to be looking into using, again, extraordinary emergency powers to get Congress in funding the wall. The White House directed the Army Corps of Engineers to examine emergency supplemental funds allocated last year after devastating hurricanes and wildfires that could instead be used to pay for the wall, according to Congressional Defense Department officials with knowledge of the matter who insisted in an interview to discuss the possibility. A shutdown near day 21, Mr. Trump, flanked by Border Patrol officials in a cache of drugs, cash and weapons seized by authorities, used a visit to a border facility in McAllen to blame the protracted shutdown affecting large sections of the federal government on Democrats. Again, even though he said that he would take the blame for the government shutdown, which is always very funny. He said you'll have crime in Iowa, you'll have crime in New Hampshire, you'll have crime in New York without a wall. And this is, again, all some of the things that he's been saying. He's continually lied about the situation, misled the American public, both on his ridiculous and very pretty much ignored Oval Office address, and he's just going to continue to do it. And I mean, really, at this point, with the shutdown and the wall negotiations, there is no way forward. If we had a barrier of any kind, whether it's steel or concrete, Trump said of tragic stories involving violence, human trafficking, they wouldn't even bother trying. We would stop that cold. Okay. You know, I'm sure about that. In a bewildering set of statements that underscored the freewheeling, often contradictory nature of his attempts to force Democrats to capitulate, Trump renewed his threat to, again, declare a national emergency and build the wall without congressional approval, but then suggested a short time later that he was open to a broader immigration deal that would grant legal status to undocumented immigrants. So he's pretty much all over the place right now. There's the presidential leadership, is the presidential leadership is almost non-existent. It's non-existent. It's like we are not getting anything from this area. Just go back and forth. It's literally like a Etch-a-Sketch. It's crazy stuff. So later, standing just above the Rio Grande, whatever, with military vehicles and the border agents as his backdrop. I think it's Rio Grande, sorry. He said he would consider a compromise that would allow undocumented immigrants brought to the United States as children, known as dreamers, to maintain their legal status they lost when he ended the Obama-era program that protected them. So he would consider that, but apparently the protection they were offering in the deal back in the Senate was too much protection. So, I mean, again, no real concrete thing has emerged yet as of this time. Only hours earlier, Pence rejected such a deal as part of the current negotiations, saying the president would want to wait. So this was the same deal. Well, we don't know. Again, it's very, very confusing. Saying the president, is he going to support it? Is he not? Pence says he's going to support it. Pence says Trump is not going to support the deal, and the president says, okay, I'll support the deal. I mean, it's all very, very confusing stuff. But Pence said apparently the president wanted to wait until the Supreme Court ruled this spring on whether an Obama-era program protecting young immigrants brought illegally as children was constitutional. The White House, though, only hardened its position. No wall, no deal. Saying, quote, we're going to keep standing strong and keep standing firm. So, yeah, they don't seem to be giving up anytime soon. The Democrats also don't seem to be giving up anytime soon because they're coming very quickly soon to realize that they have the support of the country on this. And I think they are right in that estimation. So we're only going to see where it goes from here. You can, for daily coverage on this, tune in and subscribe to The Wake Up. We're going to be covering this every day as the situation continues to unfold. But, of course, Pence is faulting the Democrats, and he indicated the president was disinclined to accept the idea that a bipartisan plan had been under discussion in the Senate, similar to a measure the Republicans and Democrats supported last year, but the White House rejected, that would trade wall funding for legal status for undocumented immigrants facing the threat of deportation. I mean, there's a very interesting possibility that this wall, and I mean, I think rightfully, if the Democrats gave Trump $5 billion for DACA kids, I mean, I think it would be ridiculous. Like Trump. But the thing is, again, Trump's never going to back down on this. So there's really no way of completely determining, like getting out of the situation. He's never going to back down on the wall. He's never going to back down on the wall. And the thing is, because he knows he can't under any circumstance or he'll get killed for it. And on top of that, we have people out there like Chuck and Nancy who they just want to get it over. They just want to get the stress off their backs and stop the heat on them as the other people in this party, in this back and forth negotiating opposition party here, that's supposed to be opposing the Republicans, not just barely capitulating to them. And you think that the Democratic base, do you think that the country wants a wall? No one wants a wall except for that portion of the country that is Trump's base. I mean, people are getting less and less convinced by the day as we get more evidence out there, widely known, that shows that we have things like we got things that are coming more and more clear. For example, the crime going down, legal migration is going down. I mean, only the only thing you want, like only in America, only in the Trump administration would you want to spend $5 billion to build a wall that is going to prevent something from happening that is happening less and less each year. Like, prevent a crisis. Like, only would you call the immigration migrant crisis a crisis in America under Trump administration when it's going down. Like, bad things that happen less and less each year are not considered a crisis. Like, the murder rate is going down, or we don't say we have a murder rate crisis. Like, that's so incredibly illogical, and it's a failure on the media. It's a failure on everyone who has failed to call Trump out in that. And I think they're getting more and more used to it at each time. Like, the fact that this is called a crisis, when it's happening less and less, is absolutely ridiculous. It's such a ploy as well, and I think that's an important thing to realize, is to get after legal immigration, because that's what they want to do. They are, again, focused on limiting legal immigration, whether it's the migrant caravan stuff going down, whether it's the asylum seeking, the attacks on asylum seekers, where people are just waiting in like ghettos, just awful living conditions, waiting for their asylum conditions. It's just it's not fun. It's not the situation that we want to be in at this point. It's very confusing, very crazy what's going on right now. So what's going on right now is, privately, Mr. Graham's Gang of Eight group, that Pence informed Graham's group that the president would not support the developing proposal, which would have reopened the government for 3 weeks, while Senate Republicans and Democrats worked to hash out a broader legislative deal on the wall and temporary grants of legal status for two groups. I just don't get. I mean, we don't know what apparently the two groups are going to be the Dreamers and people who previously held temporary protected status. So I don't know what the qualifications are for that, but those are the people that, under the Lindsey Graham deal, they would be protected, that they now don't want to protect, which is again it's very crazy. We just don't know where things are going to go. That is the situation. We're pretty much as in the dark as to any deal. Like, just give you what we know right now. Trump will not give on a wall. Trump is never going to, Trump still, no wall, no deal. That's the position from the White House at this point. Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans are trying to reopen the other parts of the government piece by piece by piece, but still, they haven't found much success in that so far. The government remains largely closed. And no real deal seems to be in sight. Saying, Lindsey Graham, quoting it pretty well, saying, quote, "We're kind of stuck." Speaker Nancy Pelosi also showed no signs of budging, urging the Republican-controlled Senate to take up a measure, and the House passed on Wednesday to reopen part of the government. The House passed two more measures on Thursday, funding HUD, transportation and agriculture, and the Food and Drug Administration, which are all very, very important things. They're going to be shuttering soon, as now we're getting on nearly a month of this government shutdown business. A dozen Republicans crossed party lines to support one of the measures, slightly more than previous votes, but no indication of that the patience of Mr. Trump's own party was wearing thin. So they're still largely behind on this. We want them to say, take yes for an answer. This is what you had proposed, Pelosi at the news conference. Why are you rejecting it at the expense of the health, safety, and well-being of the American people? Do you take an oath to the American people or to Donald Trump? And he's got a point. She's got a point there. As much as I say,